welcome everybody to the regular Board of Selectmen meeting on April 27th. And going to the, okay, hold on a second, going to the first item on the agenda, the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
States of America
and
to the republic
for which it
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I'll just leave this on until we get through my selectmen's updates, and then I'll go back to a regular screen. And first order of the agenda is, may I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 13th?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right, third item on the agenda is the first selectman update. So, well, there's been a lot going on in town hall, and we're focusing heavily now on the workplace reentry plan for town employees. And we just initiated a kind of transition plan moving from remote work back to working in town hall. And we will spend the next couple of weeks slowly transitioning employees on a rotating basis in town hall. Town hall will still stay closed to the public, but it allows employees to access things and continue to do their work, and also just get reoriented into working on site. We've implemented a lot of safe workplace initiatives, including the wearing of masks and creating social distancing environments for employees so they will remain safe while they're in the workplace. And this is mostly focused on buildings. And then we've always had our public works and grounds people have been continuing to do their work, the locations throughout town. We're also looking at other operational plans for some of the other facilities. And, that includes like the senior center, the town gym, and I'll talk a little bit more about Beach and Rec in a few minutes. We're kind of, continuing to focus on things past May 20th, with the idea being that May 20th is when this very strict kind of social distancing directive that was given by the governor perhaps may be lifted. Although everything is subject to Hartford and different directives that the governor is going to be putting in place to ensure our safety. So we thought it was better to just start laying out plans. And the more that we kind of solidify these plans, I will share them with the public. I think the plan right now, at least, is town hall will be open for appointments starting in June on an appointment only basis. And then some of the other facilities we're hoping to create opportunities for the public to have access also. But I think it's going to be really dependent on the advice we get out of the governor's office over the next couple of weeks through the council that he's created for this. In terms of Beach and Rec, we are very hopeful that we'll be able to keep our beaches open this summer and want to offer, obviously, our residents a positive, good beach season. And so right now we held off. Normally we sell beach passes starting April 1st. We're now going to be starting by mail only on May 1st. And there'll be instructions on the website about how to do this. And we've been doing this for years. A lot, some people do take advantage of it, many don't. But what we're trying to avoid is crowds of people trying to purchase passes in June, when we may be able to start doing in-person pass sales. So we encourage the public. Starting May 1st, it's very simple to go to the website, to print out a form, fill it out, make copies, send in a check, and then your pass will be mailed to you in the mail, probably within a week's time. So we encourage people to do that as much as possible to keep the process simple. And then we're going to be rolling out plans for in-person pass sales, which will probably be focused on the surf club. And then also the online pass purchase program that we were going to launch with our existing software, originally targeting kind of a pilot program in August. I'm hoping that we can actually roll that out earlier than that. So there'll be an opportunity to actually buy your pass online also. Although I encourage people to just get them to the mail in May, and then you're done and you don't have to worry about it. We're not going to require passes until June 20th, which is kind of the traditional date right after school completes that we staff our beaches fully. And so we've decided, just so we don't have a rush around Memorial Day, that we will continue to not require passes to access the beaches until June 20th. In terms of how the staff is going to look, some of that's going to be dependent upon what the final budget that gets approved here in the next week. And we're also working on how to manage within that budget, and also just make sure that we adhere to whatever safe workplace rules that come out of the state, as well as social distancing rules that would come out for the summer. And then we're also looking at programming and events scheduling. So I'm hoping to, in the next couple of weeks, give more information to the public. We've had a lot of people ask about, are we going to have, the movies? Are we going to have the concert series? So we're working through a lot of that. I think the reality is that we're not going to be having a lot of large scale events. Everything's going to be oriented around, independent use of the beach, families, and minimizing contact as much as possible. Because even if we do lift some restrictions the end of this month into early June, I think everybody needs to be cautious still, so that we don't have a resurgence of the virus, impacting our community. And then finally, the budget finalization is pending this week. The Board of Finance is having a public hearing and a meeting on Wednesday night, and that's all that available to attend that via Zoom is on the website. And then they will be setting the mill rate on May 5th. And so hopefully it'll be good to get that process settled. I'm sure there's a lot of anxiety within the public about that, and wanting to know what taxes were going to be. And to that note, I would like to comment that one important item in setting the final milled rate is that the Board of Finance needs to estimate revenue for the next fiscal year as part of that calculation. And that would include the revenue we had anticipated receiving from our lease with for Island Avenue School with the OLM Prep Group that was approved by the Board of Selectmen in March to go to a town meeting vote. And so we recently learned, from our town council that because we can't hold a town meeting under the current circumstances, the governor has issued an executive order that would allow the Board of Finance to become the final approving authority of the lease. But it would require an action by this board in advance to do so. And that board, the Board of Finance, is meeting on Wednesday. So we felt it was important that we get that process in motion tonight, our board, so that the Board of Finance could address the lease and make a decision on approving it. So with that, I actually would like to turn to my board, and I'll try to stop the sharing here. There we go. I'm back. So I would like to make a motion to open up our agenda tonight and add an item. I guess I would put it under 8A. And that motion would be to discuss and take action to approve the Island Avenue lease extension and modification agreement. So this is just a motion to open up the agenda, and then we can talk about it when we get to that as item 8A on the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, great. All right, good. Any discussion on that? And we can talk about the details of why we're doing this later, but this is just to open the agenda up. Any discussion?
So we need to read the motion into the motion to open the agenda, right, Lauren? Yeah, that was her saying yes.
Yeah, I saw you.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute.
I have to read the whole motion just to open it? Okay. As an agenda item. So I have to
Yes.
read the whole resolution? Okay, so,
Yeah, that would be the best thing to
okay,
do.
so to approve the following resolution. So discuss and take action to approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that in support of its prior action on March 9th, 2020, the Board of Selectmen hereby approves the lease modification and extension agreement granting Our Lady of Mercy Preparatory Academy of Madison a one-year extension of the existing lease of the former Island Avenue School, and in accordance with the governor's executive order 7CC, The board hereby finds that such action is necessary to permit the orderly operation of the town and that there is need to act immediately during the public health and civil preparedness emergency in order to prevent significant financial loss to the town. So, and then we had a second on that, right, Scott?
So moved. Well, I can second it, whatever you want me to do.
Okay, and then I guess discussion, and all in favor of opening up the agenda for the resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, great. All right, so that we'll get to that on 8A. I thought it was good just to let, because we have a couple of town employees on the call and allow them to participate, and then we can move on to those business items. So moving on to liaison reports and selectmen comments. Anybody would like to share?
Sure, I'll go first. I attended the Madison Ambulance Association meeting. This was their April meeting, review March. They continue to working hard in the midst of all of this. In March, they responded to 146 calls. That's actually down 10% from the prior year. They received, through the CARES Act, received $24,000. And this is, I believe, an unrestricted grant that went to emergency services. So that they've actually received that money, I believe. They had not applied in the first round of the PPP, but have since reached out to their bank, Essex, and will be applying or have applied for the second round.
Mhm.
I also attended a Zoom meeting with a group of commercial property owners here in town. And it was an opportunity through Dave Anderson and Ryan Duquez from EDC. This is a regular meeting that they have. And got to hear firsthand how they're experiencing this as commercial property owners in the town of Madison. And not surprisingly, they are very, very concerned with the long-term impacts this is going to have to local businesses, not just their business, but also the businesses of their tenants. There's a lot of concern around the movie theater and what movies and go looks like in the future and what that means for Madison's theater. And of course, the small business, they're worried that some of those businesses will just shutter and never reopen again. One question they did have for us is with the property tax deferral, they understand that there is some consideration that they need to offer to their tenants in order to qualify for this. However, many of them have tenants who have essentially disappeared or unable. And they're wondering what their documentation obligation to the town will be in that event. My advice to them, my advice or my opinion to this board would be that this is really the property owners are going to self-attest to the fact that they've offered consideration. If the property owner or if the renter is not present or available to receive that consideration, as long as the property owner is willing to attest that they offered it, I think the practical reality is they're not getting rent, regardless of what they're doing, that we honor that. So said succinctly, if the commercial property owner attests that they've offered consideration to the renter, they should be eligible for the deferment program.
Okay, and then we'll certainly talk about that when we review the policy later in the meeting for that. And I know it's an important consideration for a lot of landlords in our community for local businesses, so.
Bruce, are those meetings open to the public? Just out of curiosity.
I think these are fairly informal meetings. They're really the property owners getting together and inviting Dave Anderson and Ryan. Actually, Ryan wasn't on this particular call. And this one, they sent me an invitation to join them. So I'm going to say no, it's not a public meeting. It certainly isn't noticed in the way a town organized meeting would be.
Thanks.
Any other liaison updates?
I have one. Fillmore and I actually both met with the library board of directors chair and our head librarian, Sunny, and just talked a little bit about the budget for the library. And obviously they're expressing concern with the cut of below their 17-18 budget level, given they're doubling their square footage of the library. So there's a significant concern, I think, with how they may operate in the future. They have applied for PPP, but I don't believe have received it yet. They're in the second round as well, Bruce. And there's a conversation, I believe, around their mortgage and how that may or may not apply into this conversation. But suffice it to say, I think there's some concerns there that we may need to discuss further at some point. As you know, if we get into this economic downturn, a lot of people tend to return to the library. So it's a pretty important feature in our town. End of report.
Yeah, okay.
I learned that at Board of Ed.
Anybody else?
No, Austin's coming to the, is going to be talking, right, Peggy?
Yep,
In a
yeah.
little bit?
He will be joining us in a few minutes. And I think, you know, I think that's probably it then. I know the commissions and boards and commissions have started holding meetings, but it's slow starting. So a few have had meetings, but I'm sure we'll have more activity the next time we have a Board of Selectmen meeting as people start holding their regular meetings again.
Youth and families coming up.
Yeah. So, and it seems like things have worked well. So compliments to Art and to Lauren and to everybody that worked on putting this platform together, because I think so far it seems to be functioning pretty well. So thank you for your hard work. And it's great to get back to a little bit of normal business again. I will say that. So, so moving on for citizens comments, and I will turn this over to Lauren. Do you have any citizens comments?
So just so the public is aware, if you, okay, I guess you guys have a hang of it. I'm going to start at the top of the list with people who have their hands raised. Anyone else who wishes to speak can raise your hand by hovering over your name and clicking it. So the first one is Lori Schroeder. And before you speak, you still need to give your first and last name and address.
Looks like there's a question in the chat. Should we read it?
There we go. Lori, can you speak? There you go.
No, she
Oh.
can't.
Oh,
But can you guys just use the chat?
Yeah, it's there. We can read it.
Kevin Schroeder, Johnson Lane. I asked a question about what are we going to do if Hammonasset has an overflow situation and we're not checking passes until the 20th. Seems like a 2 to 3 week period where there could be great confusion.
So just so you know, good point. We are working on plans to address all that. And, you know, we're going to be consulting with the police, but I know for public comment, typically we don't respond back. So
I got you.
I hear your point. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can see you talking, Lauren, but you're on mute.
sorry. The next person with their hand raised is Bill Stableford. Give me one moment, Bill. I'll add you to talk. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. Good evening. Hi, everyone. Bill Stableford here, 4 Hampshire Road. As chair of the Academy Community Center Design Committee, and on behalf of committee members Roz Kama, Catherine Flynn Donovan, John Michael Parker, and Board of Selectmen Liaison Al Goldberg, I would like to ask everyone to pause for a moment to remember and to pay our respects to our late committee member, Dick Pissarro. Dick died of the coronavirus on April 3rd. Dick was extraordinarily dedicated to this project, and the amount of work and input that he contributed, particularly in researching other community centers, was prodigious. The 3D model of the proposed community center that sits in the hallway in town campus was his work alone, and it is a fitting tribute to his efforts. We have reached out to his family, and we wish them comfort in dealing with their loss. In regard to postponing the October referendum on the Academy project, we on the committee believe that under current and anticipated economic circumstances resulting from the pandemic, this year is not the time to ask Madison residents to vote on a major capital expenditure. Thus, we agree with and support the proposal to reschedule the referendum to a later date to be determined. Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bill. We certainly will miss Dick. And he was a very strong voice for Academy, and we appreciate and are grateful for all the work he's done for our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
I don't see anyone else with their hand up right now. So as long as no one, oh, there's one more. Hold on one moment. Okay, the last name looks like Roxborough. Please again state your first and last name and your address before speaking.
See if they're on mute.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute it. It won't let me. Is it possible that you are joined?
I'll unmute it.
There you go.
So I'd like to speak about the Island Avenue School. And I'm wondering why we couldn't get an RFQ on that, request for quotation, to see how the cost of that would compare with the new $58 million proposed elementary school. The parochial school kids seem to enjoy it. The chair of, the chair of the OLM school committee, John Picard, he says it's a wonderful school. Why are we, what's the necessity of building a new $58 million pre-K to 6 school when we might modernize Island Avenue and bring it up to all the standards to make it a first-class school? The question is, why did we skip it in all this committee work that we did before this? And it was decided to do what we're doing at 58 million. I would just humbly ask the Board of Selectmen to ask for a request for quotation for the work that might bring that up to modern standards and compare it with the $58 million elementary school that is proposed to be built. And that's all I have to say.
Can you please state your first and last name and address for the record?
I did. Bob Roxborough, 91 Woodsville Road, Madison, Connecticut.
Thank
You hear
you.
me?
Yep.
That's the question.
Okay. Well, I think today's discussion is not talking about the future of the school proposal. It's focused on other matters, but your point is taken, and thank you for your comments.
Oh, is there any discussion on it?
We're not able to comment on public comment.
What's that, Scott?
We're not able to comment on public comment.
Well, it'll be entered in the record, I assume.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Is there any press here? There isn't, I guess.
Okay, I guess that's it for public comment, Lauren.
I have
you.
one more. Sorry,
Thanks.
give me one moment and I'll
Thank
put
you.
Kevin Schroeder back into the mix.
Okay.
Kevin, are you able to unmute yourself? I'm trying to unmute you and it's not letting me.
Well, yes, of course. I just did. Sorry.
Okay.
So I'll repeat my long-winded comment. So in the last couple hours, I've seen President Trump, Governor Cuomo, and Governor Lamont comment about opening and contact tracing and testing. And I know it's a very complicated issue, but I think that I and my family would be more reassured moving forward if the town could communicate with us about what role the town itself will play. I know that's not an easy thing to communicate, but it would be hopeful, if that makes any sense. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's certainly a very important topic that our emergency operations team has been discussing. And when we have something, we will share it with the public. Okay. So moving on to, we have our Youth and Family Services Director, Scott Cochran, on, and our Senior Services Director, Austin Hall, just to give a brief update on community assistant programs. So I see Scott's name pop up and Austin was here. There he is. Okay.
Austin with an extra hand.
Yeah, so if we go by the agenda, should we start with Scott Cochran, please?
That's good for me. Hello, everyone. It's actually nice to see all your faces. And hope everybody in Madison is safe and healthy and doing everything they need to do during these very difficult times. A quick plug for our services. So Austin and I, we've tried to be very clear with the town of Madison. So residents 64 and younger, if you have any issue at all with what's going on presently, whether that's a financial issue, concerns about mental health, concerns about anything dealing with COVID, or things that maybe don't relate to COVID that are worse now because of the pandemic, please contact us. We're here. We have assistance programs, financial assistance programs. We can connect you with other resources. We can provide direct mental health support. We work with families and kids and any adult who has any needs at this point, 64 and under. So that's 203-245-5645 to reach us by phone. We don't answer it directly, but we do get back to everybody who leaves a message. Or you can email us at madisonwillrise@madisonct.org. And I'm Scott Cochran, I'm the director. I'd just like to give you a little bit of a report out in terms of the things that we are doing. I'm focusing more on what we've been doing over the last 6 weeks or so with the pandemic. So our staff, along with all the other town employees, moved to remote operations at the time that we were ordered to do that. A lot of our services were very adaptable to remote operations. So there were a lot of things we could continue to do with the use of Zoom meetings, phone contacts. There were things we were not set up to do initially that we found ways to get going on, including mental health appointments, telehealth, video appointments, things like that. And everything, of course, went to Zoom meetings that we did in groups. We have three major headings that we do here. So in terms of our positive youth development prevention programs, we've continued to do groups through those, under that heading. And we have groups that go in every grade, so the high school all the way down to the grade 6. Most of those groups are smaller in number, 8 to 12 students on average. Our larger ones, like our peer advocate and peer helper groups, especially when we're thinking about talking about the alumni meetings that they hold over Zoom, those can number anywhere from like 40 to 50 young people that participate in those meetings at any given time. Most of the meetings are smaller, but just to kind of give you an idea what's the range. And the young people are all bringing up a lot of the things that you would expect them to, adapting to school, not being able to go outside, dealing with seeing some people that are following the rules, and obviously a lot of our kids are following social distancing and what they're being directed to do. We've had a number of our students involved in our groups get very involved in our social media. And our social media account, our Facebook page for Madison Youth and Family, as well as the one for our Drug and Alcohol Coalition MAID, have been very busy and up exponentially in terms of their engagements. We've had young people post videos that had everything to do with things like our chalk challenge, We've had a number of kids from our Valor group. They're reading books to younger kids, and those have engaged over 1,000 people each time that they've gone on. And we had a PSA a couple of weeks ago by a group of young people that were urging other youth to stay at home. And that one actually engaged almost 5,000 people through direct, what we posted, and then it gets shared on and on. So they're really providing, I think, a very important piece to the Madison community at this point. And credit to my staff too, are working behind the scenes remotely, keeping all these kids together and leaning on each other and doing a lot of program planning. We run a clinic. Our outpatient mental health clinic has continued to operate. So just since mid-March, we've had 246 separate contacts. So that's anything from a phone contact to a consultation with somebody from the community calling in. We've had 108 telehealth sessions provided. And just to give you an idea, typically in a month, we do about 190 sessions. That's what we document in our records. The themes there, here's a surprise: anxiety, parenting. We've had probably a high uptick in the amount of parents who will engage with us around their children's treatment and voicing concerns about connecting with schoolwork, trying to keep their kids healthy, trying to keep themselves healthy. So that's obviously gone up quite a bit. Our social services, so that's been fairly busy. We've had just over the last 6 weeks or so, 30, so altogether 36 unduplicated clients. That's the group, that's the number of unduplicated people that have reached out to us. 12 of those are new. In the last 2 weeks, we've had 28 of those client contacts. And just to give you an idea, I look back at last March, we had 22 a year ago last March, to give you kind of an idea to compare. The themes that come up with those, the top ones are around accessing food or gift cards for food, assistance with connecting with internet services for distance learning, rental assistance, just looking for resources around connecting to the government programs, referral, how to get connected to the food pantry, assistance for mental health services, and a couple of referrals to the Women and Family Life Center in Guilford. We are running a specific COVID assistance program under that, and that's funded under the Neighbor to Neighbor, as well as the Guilford Savings Bank. They donated quite a bit of money towards that effort. So that's only been going over the last 2 weeks. So far, we've processed 8 applications that are ready to go out, and we'll disperse $3,600 worth in assistance directly through that program. We have several in the hopper that have not been processed, probably about another 5 or 6 right now that we know of that are coming or in process that we would foresee over the next week. We did modify that program to make it more reachable. We think we changed up, we eliminated a lot of the income guidelines that we did in the initial program. And so we want to make that accessible for more people and get the word out. So we are lucky, we're so fortunate to have this kind of funding available to us, and we're here and we're ready to hear from people who need it. So anybody who's been impacted by COVID, you can again contact us. We can get you the application, and we can get you some needed assistance. And we're going to be providing more programs as we're looking over the next couple of months. We could foresee issues with childcare as adults go back to work and their kids, there's no camp programs. We know that childcare is going to be a major issue, and we're going to be working with Neighbor to Neighbor or other stakeholders to create other programs to help in that particular area. And want you to know that we are putting content on our Facebook page every day. These are mental health tips. These are things that we're writing. These are things that we're getting from other people and posting. These are, in some cases, things that the kids are creating. We have theme days that people tend to engage in and enjoy. Some of them are humorous and uplifting. Some of them are more serious, where we're trying to get information out to people. And that's a lot of information to try to summarize. So I'll just stop there. I don't know if people have questions, and I'll let you get on with your meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I've been fortunate to have a weekly check-in with Scott and also with Austin and just hear about all the good work they're doing. And so I'd like to turn it over to Austin now and provide an update on the senior center activities.
Thanks, Peggy. So we're doing an array of activities and programs during this time. One is we're continuing our Meals on Wheels program, and that has stayed pretty consistent with 65 seniors getting lunch delivered Monday through Friday. Not only is it a lunch, but it's also a wellness check that they receive every day. We're also running a program called Errands on Wheels, where we will go grocery shopping for seniors or anyone in town who's trying to stay home and stay safe. We have a group of volunteers who are willing to do that, and so far we've matched up 29 seniors with a volunteer and have done over 50 shopping trips, and probably many more that once the volunteer and the senior engage with each other, they're kind of doing it on their own, which is nice. We've also matched people up with dog walking services, so volunteers who are willing to walk dogs for seniors who can't get out. We also do countless wellness and friendly phone calls to seniors every day. And my staff who's working from home is able to contact dozens of seniors a day to just reach out and ask them if they need assistance, if they have any concerns or needs that we could possibly meet. We also are providing non-perishable goods and food to seniors who may not have the funds to go grocery shopping, so we're able to do that. We also have gift cards through Neighbor to Neighbor that have donated, so we have the ability to give folks Stop and Shop gift cards as well. So, we're also continuing our social service program. So we have Medicare, Medicaid applications are still being processed, energy assistance, and countless other social service programs that my folks are able to help seniors with. So if you are a senior or know of a senior who could use any kind of assistance, please have them call us. Our direct number is 203-245-5627. And if we don't answer, we'll call you back as soon as we can. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Great.
I have one question, if you don't mind. Well, first of all, Austin, you clearly started with the amazing video, your little tour that you did, but then Scott and Youth and Family did the throwdown and did the chalk pass. I don't know if you saw that. So you may need to volley for serve here and come up with something more creative. I guess a quick question, Scott, I don't know if it's for you or for Austin or maybe both of you guys, but helping homebound people. What do you guys think about our ability to serve the public and folks that maybe can't get to you?
So I'll go first, Scott.
Yep.
So that's what Meals on Wheels and Errands on Wheels is specifically for homebound folks. And that, Meals on Wheels has always been for homebound people. So we're continuing that and adding more people to it as folks become homebound due to the coronavirus and want to stay home. So we're able to go to you and provide services to your door instead of having you come out.
Yeah, and I'll just add, so this is an area where Austin and I have talked quite a bit, and Austin is the one who's taking the volunteer applications. So people who want to volunteer and be a part of these running errands for people. So he's taking on that. So for the people who are not seniors, they can still call if they come up to directly through working with us. We can, if they're homebound, we can refer them over, and Austin will hook them up with somebody to provide the errands, just as as he would for a senior. It's a great collaboration. It's been it's been an honor to work with Austin on this. He's phenomenal. There's a lot of really good things that are going on in this town, and a lot of reason for the town, I think, to feel confident in what we're doing, as scary and as awful as all this is. That we're here for people, and we're going to keep working hard for people.
Scott, how much collaboration is still happening with the schools also during this homebound time?
So that's a really good question. So I think on the level of, so our clinicians are still interacting with teachers and with administrators that they work closely with when school was in. So there's quite a bit of that. You know, we've had some interaction between people within the school system and our social services. So like connecting kids with the internet. There were some families that had some trouble with internet access. I know Art worked really hard to help on a couple of those cases. I know that we were doing what we could to connect them. Administratively, people were all so crazy. I mean, I've had, typically I would normally talk with Superintendent Scarice on a pretty regular basis around administratively what we're doing. I would sometimes have contact with principals. Actually fairly regularly have contact with principals, but a lot of that has not been as much because it's just, the days are very busy, they're very chaotic, and we're just kind of constantly kind of chasing something.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think you guys have done an incredible amount of work. And I think that one thing we'll have to talk about is even as we come out of this emergency, I think some of the programs that have been put into place have been valuable for seniors in particular, because they always struggle with mobility. And they're not as adept at technology sometimes to access things. So, that'll be a further discussion, I know, with Austin about how we might try to take some of the lessons we learned during the crisis and then try to continue to roll forward with some important services that people have taken advantage of right now. So any other questions for Austin or for Scott at this stage?
You guys are doing a terrific job. Thank you very
Sure.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything, guys.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 7, an update on the Munis system implementation from our Director of Administrative Services and Technology. I would thought that was part of your name, but Art Sickle, who handles all this stuff. So Art, please join us and give us a quick update on Munis, which is a huge program launch that was expected to be done in July. And unfortunately, everybody's world has been rocked here, but they're still chugging away on it. So go ahead, go give us an update, Art.
Well, given that it is such a large project and there's so many resources have been committed to it, I wanted to, and also Bruce had mentioned he'd like to hear an update on where we're at with the Munis implementation. It's a replacement for our existing legacy financial system. We currently run the Phoenix Financial HR payroll system. That system, it was announced that it would go end of life by the company that owns it. And it was supposed to end on June 30th. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's June 30th of 2020 this year. They did not really give enough notice in pretty much every one of their clients' opinion. And we talked a great deal about this through the acquisition process. I brought all of this forward to the boards. I don't think that any of this is news. Basically, what's happened is that we are actually on schedule for the July 1st startup for our general accounting financials. And we are looking to push out further to January 1st, 2021 for our HR payroll side of it. If we had our choice, if we were given our druthers where we had the support available from day one, those are the target dates that we most likely would have selected if we had the choice. I think it's best to start our fiscal year July 1 with the financial system, and certainly payroll has to be implemented on a quarter. And I think given the cycle of the calendar year basis for W-2s and for things like 1099-Rs for retirees and things like that, it makes a lot of sense to be on the calendar year for most of the HR payroll functionality. So Stacy, I have to give a lot of kudos to the finance department and HR departments on both the schools and town side. Everybody's been working super hard. And I think that we are on track, as I said, for July 1 for the general ledger financial system, all the accounts payables, receivables, all those things that are not the HR and payroll piece. So that's going ahead, that's on budget, it's on time. Given the pandemic and everybody switching to remote, all of training and all of our implementation meetings have been done remotely for the past month or so, month and a half. Stacy and I approached the Phoenix, the parent company of Phoenix, which is Power School. And we've been working with Phoenix since they were their own small company of 30 people 20 years ago, right through today. They're owned by Power School, and we did get, I think, really on the basis of our excellent relationship with them, an authorization for them to provide support for another 6 months for us. So I think given that that's the case, we wanted to take our time at this point with HR payroll and do that right. If we had to, we could certainly push through and do a skeletal implementation, but it wouldn't be what we would like. This will give us a lot of confidence, a lot more time to run additional parallel runs and things like that for payroll. So we have not used all of our implementation time. We're not out of implementation time and money at this point by any means. So the only difference is the timing of the implementation of the HR payroll. So that was pretty much big news that we wanted to share with you, and it only got nailed down as far as the availability of the extra support as of last Friday. So we are, it's basically hot off the press news, but we would like to take advantage of that and go forward in that direction. Were there questions on that?
Art, do you anticipate any incremental costs as a result of the pandemic and COVID, or I see
honestly,
costs?
It's a little bit soon to tell. I don't believe that we're going to be necessarily implementing every single module that we had anticipated, depending on how it all goes. As we were able to uncover different parts of different modules, the functionality that exists in some modules, maybe making it not necessary to implement another, for instance. We do have a balance of implementation days so far that is a healthy balance at the moment. So I don't expect going over. I will definitely come back to the group if we think that there's going to be an issue. We may opt to do a little bit more with some consulting hours, but I don't anticipate a huge change at this point.
Thanks.
Art, what are the incremental challenges of making this, of operating in the middle of a fiscal year, making some kind of a transition like this?
Well, we're timing this so that most of the system, the financial system, is going to start on the beginning of a fiscal year, July 1. And all of the timing, and as I said, then the HR payroll piece logically does fall on a calendar year, January 1st for the first day of that. So those, as I said, if we weren't going to be withheld support initially, we probably would have gone that route to begin with. So given the fact that we had a pandemic, I think that everybody's a little bit more sympathetic to that. The real challenges are that all the training and implementation had to switch from in-person sessions to remote sessions, which is challenging in and of itself. But the big part that is of concern is in training the end user community on how to do all the things that they currently do now. So it's one thing when we're dealing with a few members of the finance department at a time, the HR departments, it's small numbers of people, very technically capable people. Not that everybody isn't going to be able to get on and learn remotely, they certainly would, but it's quite a challenge, I think, to attempt to teach everyone, every employee how to enter hours using a self-service portal when you can't get groups of people together. One of the things that we're going to be doing to try and streamline the implementation of the financial system is possibly, instead of right now, we have a very distributed model of how all of our purchase recs are entered. And a lot of the work is done, in the departments all over the place. And again, this is a system that covers the schools and the town. So from secretaries in every school, department leads in different schools, all of the town departments, department heads, clerical folks in the town offices, the remote offices as well. I mean, not just town campus, and getting them all set up to run purchase recs and enter purchase recs and close out purchase orders and things like that. We are probably looking at doing some centralization of that data entry piece to get started. We're going to try and create, 4 or 5, maybe a half a dozen real power users to get started with, and then do a train the trainer model as time goes on. But I think that, we're working closely with the Munis Tyler implementation team. Right now, everybody seems to think that that's a good approach. And again, as I said, I think that the biggest challenge is the remote training of the masses on how to use the system, completely use it or more completely use it.
Thank you, Art. Thanks.
Art, are people nervous about the new system? Have you gotten a sense of, as people are getting into it, is there concerns about usability at all or in transition to the new system, or are people finding it pretty easy and comfortable?
Well, I wouldn't say that they're finding it easy. I think that the system is really showing itself to be a very robust system, that there's a lot of features. I think that one of the challenges folks are going to find is that our account structure is changing in some regards. So where you can, I've got these 14-digit account numbers right now, but having worked with them for years and years, I can spout off most of my accounts, from memory. So now we're going to basically, use some slightly different related chart of accounts that, we're crosswalking everything to the new account numbers and account structures. And there's little shorthand type organization codes that are out there. I think that once everybody gets used to it, I think that they'll be just fine with it. But, the functionality certainly does appear to be there. Finance department, HR, payroll, we've all had our concerns, making sure that we're thinking everything through as we need to try and make sure that we haven't left anything out in the structures of the accounts and things like that. I think, as I said, Stacy and her staff did a phenomenal amount of work, and they still are doing. And HR, payroll on both sides. When I say both sides, I mean the schools. A lot of thought, a lot of effort's been going into it. I think the designs are going to be very good. And then we've got, interfaces from other systems that we're building also. And some of those are financial, some of those are HR, payroll, time entry type things. So I think this extra 6 months on the HR payroll piece is something that's going to help us, start our implementation. On the day of our implementation kickoff, it'll be, a much more complete implementation.
As long as we can
It's
pay our bills on time, Art,
Pay our bills,
and pay our people on time.
pay our employees, absolutely.
So, all right, well, I think we've got a lot more to discuss on the agenda, but thank you very much for the update, Art. I know you guys are
Thank
going
you.
hard on this, and I keep hearing the Munis word getting thrown around town hall a lot. So I know it is a very important,
Hopefully in a good way.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but but
The
it's an important
implementation's-
project, even in the item, as we realize how important technology is, this just elevates it in the situation that we're in now. So thank you for all the work and all the work that I know Stacy's team and everything has been doing on this. Okay, so should we move on to number 8, which is just basically, once again, extending, I'll read the discuss and take action to declare a local civil preparedness emergency for an additional 21-day period from April 27th to May 18th. Can I have a motion
So moved.
in a second? Okay, great. And so for discussion, this is basically just renewing on a 21-day cycle that we continue to operate in a state of emergency locally. And it continues to mirror what's going on at the state level and the national level. I am hopeful that maybe we won't have to do this again, but we'll see how things shake out in terms of what the governor guidance that provides to us. But it's important we keep this declaration in place. We operate our emergency operations center, and we continue to have access to all the emergency funding and programs that are available from a state and federal level. So any more discussion on this? No? Okay. All in favor of approving, I guess, the declaration of local civil preparedness emergency, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. No nays and no abstentions. Great. All right, so that is approved and we'll just keep that rolling, hopefully not for too much longer. And then we'll move on to item 8A, which is what I spoke about in my initial comments. So item 8A is to discuss and take action to approve the following resolution, and I'll read it one more time for everybody. The board all has a copy of this, but this is for the benefit of the public. Be it resolved that in support of its prior action on March 9th, 2020, the Board of Selectmen hereby approves the lease modification and extension agreement granting Our Lady of Mercy Preparatory Academy of Madison a one-year extension to the existing lease of the former Island Avenue School, and in accordance with the Governor's Executive Order 7cc, the board hereby finds that such action is necessary to permit the orderly operation of the town, and that there is need to act immediately during the public health and civil preparedness emergency in order to prevent significant financial loss to the town.
So moved.
Okay, in a second.
Second.
Okay, great. So discussion. I mean, I made my comments earlier, but basically, you know, there was an executive order that just literally came out a week ago from the governor's office that extended the authority to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to approve those financial matters that were really intended for town meeting, but since we cannot hold a town meeting in a safe manner, if there is an urgent financial need, approved through this other process, which is similar to what we're doing with our budget. And so, you know, after discussion with both our board, you know, and with the Board of Finance chair, I think we all felt that the revenue that would be generated from extending the lease for a year is an important piece of information as the Board of Finance tries to make some final decisions on the budget. And so it does have an urgent financial nature. It will impact the mill rate, and we felt it was important to get this moved forward. And then secondly, you know, the lease is due to expire at the end of July, and the OLM people need to plan for their future, and they've been waiting in limbo. This was voted on, I think, March 9th originally, where we were, the board approved it and was sending it to the kind of traditional process to town meeting. And they've been waiting to have this resolved for them. So any other comments or discussions from the board on the resolution?
So, so I tend to support this this motion. I think that given our current circumstances, it's the thing for us to do. However, I do want us to be aware that we're moving this forward without public comment or public input or even a vote of our legislative body. So, because this agreement contemplates a renewal period to it, I would urge that when we are able, that we do have some public hearing on this prior to the renewal commitment period, so that we can get a sense of where the public is at on this.
Okay, I think that's a very fair point. And important. I don't think the intent here is not to, you know, reflect the public will. And I know we all understand that. And I think it's important, though, you're right. If we have to act again on this to extend the year another year, I'm supportive of doing something like that. Absolutely. Any other comments or ideas?
Sorry.
Yep, that's okay.
Just for the benefit of the public, you know, there's still a mechanism for them to give input to the Board of Finance, even though we can't, or we're not going to move to a town hearing. So people should, you know, if they feel strongly about the lease or lease terms, they should take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. This will be, if we move forward on this, this would be placed on the agenda for the Board of Finance on Wednesday night. Their meeting's at 7 o'clock. They have the public hearing on the budget, but then they have a regular meeting. And so absolutely, there would be an opportunity for the public to weigh in for public comment at that meeting as well. Anybody else? Okay, so I guess having said that, I guess all in favor of approving the resolution as read into the record, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed, abstain? Great, okay. The motion passes. And then on to another one. This one is really long, and that's my fault. I was kind of going by the governor's the way he's been doing this, and I'm realizing I don't have to do that. I thought I had to state all the stuff, so I apologize for all the whereases. What I'm going to do is put on a share a screen just so the public can see it. I took a quick picture of this, so it's not the best view, but at least people can see the actual because I didn't have the actual document with me just now, so I did this. But anyway, so that at least, I guess, do I have to read this whole thing, Lauren? Yes? Yeah, all right. I'm sorry. I will not do this again. You can blame Lamont. Discuss and take action on possible changes of the October referendum timeline, including modification of the resolution adopted. That's the agenda item. And so I guess I'm making a motion to propose the following resolution. Well, yes, okay. And the resolution being, whereas the Board of Selectmen passed a resolution on February 24th, 2020, stating its intent to consider procedures necessary for approval, appropriations, and bond authorizations for improvements to school facilities of the town and for renovations to the Academy building for the use as a community center, the projects, and to take all actions necessary to present the projects to voters of the town at a referendum anticipated to be held during the first full week of October 2020. And whereas on March 15th, 2020, the Board of Selectmen for the town of Madison, pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes, sections 28.8, 20, whatever, and section 10.13 and 4.1.4 of the town charter, declared a local civil emergency, preparedness emergency due to the significant danger to public health posed by the global spread of COVID-19, shortages of supplies and equipment necessary to protect the public health and health and safety and the spread of COVID-19 to residents of the town of Madison as a result of the global pandemic. And whereas the Board of Selectmen acknowledge that the residents of Madison are experiencing a high degree of economic uncertainty and insecurity resulting from the global pandemic and the ensuing emergency action taken to protect the health and safety of the community. And whereas the Board of Selectmen acknowledges that this local civil preparedness emergency significantly impacts the town's and the Board of Education's ability to take the necessary actions to present the projects to the voters at a referendum in October. And finally, be it resolved, the Board of Selectmen hereby rescinds the resolution passed on February 24, 2020, and commits to work in collaboration with the appropriate boards and commissions to revisit the scope of the projects if deemed necessary, and to take all actions necessary to establish a revised timeline to present the projects to the voters of the town through a referendum currently anticipated to be held sometime in 2021. All right.
So moved.
Second.
All right, great. Okay, for discussion. Anybody want to make some opening comments? I'm happy to, as always. Let me get out of the screen share here. Okay. I just want to, obviously this is a difficult decision to make. I mean, I think many in the community were very eager and excited to get these projects moving forward with great anticipation because they waited a long time on these. But after careful discussion with the chair of the Board of Education, as well as with the Board of Finance, I think the three chairs, at least of the boards, had felt that neither of these projects should be brought to a public vote at this time, given the current economic uncertainty we face. So we all recognize that residents have more immediate concerns to focus on, including their health, safety, and well-being. And it would be insensitive to ask the public to make a decision on any sizable investment projects, which require significant financial commitments in such an unsettling environment. And so, although I also think it would be a disservice to the projects because I don't think that they would they've worked so hard on these and planned so carefully for them. And, the public is not really in a situation, I think, to focus the attention and give it the proper time and consideration, given the environment that we're in. So I'm very comfortable and would advocate kind of postponing in some way. And I would hope to get these back in front of the public as soon as practical in the new economic environment that we're in. And would they look the same? Maybe not. And I think we would collaborate and need to look to the guidance for the Board of Education, as well as the Academy team, to see how they envision these moving forward, after we have time to reflect on what's been happening, obviously, locally in the economy. So those are my initial thoughts, and I open it up for discussion.
So I agree with everything you've said. I think that this is the right thing to do. I think the big challenge for us as a board and for the Board of Education is what do we do now with the time that we have created by deferring these decisions for a while. I think the Board of Education, and I see Katie there, they have a lot of work in front of them to look at their educational model, their staffing model, their facilities model, and come back to us with some sort of recommendations. And probably the first one is just talking about how long they think it's going to take them to figure this all out, and the sequencing that they're going to go through. I think we have on the town side the issue of what are we going to do with Academy. And I hope that we can use this time productively within the constraints of whatever the COVID pandemic is putting in front of us. But we've got some time now to look at the Academy project. We are giving the Board of Ed some time to figure out where they want to be. And I would add that we should think about the other projects in town that are in front of us that may require a bond, things that we didn't have a chance to get to in the discussion around the school model and the community center model. What else do we have that we can put out to the voters so that they understand what we're thinking about over the next 5 and 10 and 15 years?
Yeah, I would agree. I think, early on when I was elected, I wanted to do a strategic plan and to make sure that all of, the different projects that we are looking at fit appropriately together and set us on the right path. And so we do have a little bit of an opportunity here to do that, to take some time to do that. I will say, though, that unfortunately, some of the infrastructure needs are quite significant and still going to be there. If a boiler breaks or a roof starts leaking, or I think particularly on the school side, the facility team has done wonders in extending the life of these buildings. But there's only so long that they can be extended. So we will have to be careful of understanding that too, that the infrastructure needs are still going to be there. But absolutely, I think that all of this needs to be looked at in an overall kind of strategic plan for the town.
And to that point, Peggy, part of the CIP was a facility study, and I know you've been a strong proponent of that. And is that still on schedule to move forward, even though we're putting some project off right now?
Well, if the budget passes, it's certainly top of my list. I actually spoke to Bill McMinn again about that. So he has already started to pull together what he would need to put that facility study together, that we would take out to RFP. That was something that was part of the budget for this next year that was up for approval. So I'm hopeful, because I think that is going to help a lot of decisions get made in terms of the town buildings. The schools did theirs already, and that's helped drive a lot of the decisions that came out of their facility renewal plan was from that kind of work. So I think it would be great to have the town side also reflected, and then it helps us make better decisions next year when we do CIP and we establish the budget. Hopefully we'll have actual advice and data to make decisions by on some of the building and projects that we're talking about. So, and I think also that includes usage of those buildings too. So not just infrastructure, but how we use our buildings. And, and I think a lot of things we learned is that, we may look at the world in a very different light now, having learned to be more remote workers. So There's a lot of things that I'm hoping that we can at least use the next, 6 months to think about. I don't think things are just going to go back to the way they were automatically. I think people will be thinking about how they operate in for a while to come, and things will evolve differently, but I don't have a crystal ball.
Peggy, that said, though, I think it's important for the public to understand that the school maintenance of those facilities does not go away. At the end of the day, we're moving into that 10-year plan, and there was a significant dollar amount associated with each year of that maintenance plan. So, as we push it forward, we have to go in with our eyes open, recognizing that we're going to be maintaining buildings also, existing buildings, until we make a change. So I think that's really important.
No, I agree. I think, we're the Band-Aid approach only works so long. And that's why I think to take time, but hopefully, still be committed that we have to make some decisions and allow the public to weigh in on some sort of decision and a plan going forward. And ideally, I would love to see that happen next year when we have a better sense of where we are from an economic standpoint.
Like my colleagues, I find it easy to support this resolution. And I think the efforts on the part of Jean and Katie and you, Peggy, getting together on this is very important to the community. I think our constituents appreciate the empathy and the honesty which this resolution represents, jointly developed by the three of you.
Thank you, Al. And I don't know, we do have both Katie and Jean here, so I don't know if you want to weigh in. No obligation, but if you'd like to.
Well, I do have some comments. I was going to save them for public comment, but I don't want to interrupt your meeting.
Okay.
So you can let me know if you'd like me to do it now or later.
If people are ready to vote, maybe we can vote and then have you do them as part of public comment. Is everybody okay voting?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. So, I guess all in favor of the resolution as stated into the record, please say aye.
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 Okay. Opposed, abstain. Great. Okay. Motion passes. And Katie, we'll invite you back in public comment. So I appreciate it. I thought we'll keep rolling here. We're getting through things now. So, all right, so moving on to number 10, which is discuss and take action to adopt policies and procedures for eligibility guidelines for the tax deferment program approved at the last meeting. And let me get that out. So basically, for the public's benefit, this is another one I'm confused about. This is adoption. Okay, so can I have a motion to adopt the policy and procedure?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So for discussion, basically, for the public's benefit, our last meeting, we approved a tax deferment program. We had a choice of two different programs, and it basically extends the tax due date to October 1st for all Madison taxpayers. But there was certain specifics that we needed to implement as part of that policy, and that was the eligibility requirements. And so after kind of internal analysis and discussion and input from various people, we have a memo here that comes from Lauren Rhines that was worked on by both our director of finance as well as our tax collector. And also I completely agree with it that we extend this to every taxpayer rather than having people having to certify that they have an impact due to this public pandemic. We would just go forward and allow all taxpayers to benefit. There's only one caveat to that, and that is landlords. And that's specifically because the governor's order that required us to choose this program also required that landlords certify in some way that they are providing relief to their tenants, and there's specifics to that. So, and Lauren, I'll let you, if it's okay, if you could do a brief summary of specifically in terms of landlords.
Sure. So Bruce actually did touch on this in the beginning as well. So the state's executive order allows towns to give that blanket eligibility to all forms of taxpayers. Like Peggy said, the one caveat is that landlords do have to give eligibility documentation back to the town. Landlords have to certify that they have a financial impact due to COVID, and or that they are passing on that benefit to their tenants and lessees. So they have to certify for the town that they need the deferment, and that perhaps they are giving that deferment to the people who rent their properties. The current plan that we propose to you would have landlords have to contact the tax collector and receive an application form to complete, and that's something that OPM has created. And then they would have to provide that backup documentation. And that backup documentation regarding their financial status and the benefit onto their tenants can be in the form of a letter that they send to the tenants, or in the form of an email that they send to the town or their tenants, depending on which way they are certifying their eligibility.
And the benefit is, oh, sorry, just real quickly, though, the benefit that they have to pass on is a 25% of whatever I forget how, of the rent that's paid, right? So they would have to give them a 25% rental reduction.
Colleen, can you confirm that that 25% is correct?
I believe that's correct. I think it's that application that OPM has is requiring. I think as long as they fall within that, especially for residential, it's pretty easy. They just have to email me something stating that they're complying with that 7X executive order. But for the commercial, they need to provide a little bit more detail, filling out that application. And we just have to make sure that the deadline, these applications have to be received by July 1.
So Lauren, just so I understand, so the eligibility criteria is that it's an and or. So in other words, if a landlord demonstrates a hardship, it doesn't mean that they necessarily have to pass it along to their tenant. So in the case, Bruce, where you were saying, if a landlord, if their tenant stops paying, or if their tenant disappears, shouldn't that be relatively easy to provide that or demonstrate a hardship because they no longer have income from that tenant, right? I mean, do you foresee that being offering them some relief, because having spoken to the landlords in your meeting?
So I think it comes down to how much documentation do they have to prove? How do they prove they haven't been paid? Do they have to show us bank accounts? Or do we ask them to self-attest to their situation?
Yeah.
And I'm advocating that we allow that that self attestment.
Right. I'm supportive of that, because I think, and that was what I know the staff had recommended. I think the to have to come up with some sort of formula or metric for approvals, I think it would be very difficult. Some communities that are dealing with, thousands of large apartment buildings and things like that, I can see where the documentation might be more advantageous, that the town would make the effort to provide that kind of certification process. But I think from what, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we had internal discussions, I know Stacy couldn't be on the phone tonight, the thought was that this just kept things more simple, and it kept things also easier for the landlords in town, so that they can have as smooth a process as a typical taxpayer does right now to get the deferral.
Yeah, I think this is a moment of common sense to prevail, and not to overthink, all of the ways that the system might be abused.
Yeah.
But I think that the comment that either or though, and maybe I apologize because we had this call probably 2 weeks ago on this. So when we discussed it, and I guess I'm trying to remember though, I thought that you certify, but you still have to demonstrate that you're passing on that rent, or is it either or?
It's either,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. It's either or. They have to demonstrate the financial hardship and or give that benefit onto their residents or their
Okay.
tenants.
All right. Okay. Right. Okay. I couldn't remember. I'm reading here from the OP, and it's still not very clear in this memorandum from OPI, but our
I
OPM.
think what's happening from a practical perspective is that tenants are, even the tenants who can pay their rent are not, because effectively from the governor, one of the governor's executive orders, they don't have to.
Mhm.
And I think right there, that probably passes the criteria of hardship.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. So, and then basically, so that's kind of what was being recommended in the memorandum. So I don't know does anybody have any other questions or concerns about the memo of adopting this as our policy? No?
No.
Okay, then all in favor of adopting the policy and procedures for eligibility guidelines for the tax deferment program, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, abstained, great, okay. All right, so approved. Next, discuss and take action to approve line item transfers totaling $33,959.75.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay. You know what? Because Stacy's not on here. Lauren, do you know what these are regards to again? I forgot. I know there's a couple that came in, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so these are routine line item transfers from two departments. One is from the tax collectors department and one is from the facilities department. And it's just transferring funds within the department from one line item to another. They're not asking for any additional funding.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. That passes. Appointments and resignations. So I guess a motion to approve Lori Lodge to the Rockland Preserve Committee alternates for a term to expire January 1st, 2023. Gerald Kahn to the Solid Waste Disposal Committee for a term to expire January 1st, 2023. And resignation of Philip Chamberlain from the Ad Hoc Island Avenue School Future Use Committee. A motion to approve the appointments.
Second.
Okay, any discussion or question? No? Oh, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Congratulations to our two new people, and we're sorry that Philip has chosen not to move forward. And that means we have an opening on Island Avenue, right? So that committee I know is eager to get back to work, and I think they actually have started to get back to work. So we'll try to get, any members of the public interested. We'll go back through maybe some of the applications that we received and bring forward another name at our next meeting on that. So, okay, moving on, tax abatements and refunds. I don't have that list. Lauren, do we have any?
They were sent out. I have to switch between my two systems here. So I'm opening it on the other side. Give me one
Okay,
moment.
yeah, does somebody have that available? I didn't print that out, I guess.
So these are refunds totaling $4,682.80.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. All right, citizens' comments. Katie, go ahead.
I just want to thank you all. and I think it's important to say that the Board of Ed is in support of your decision to postpone the referendum for October for the school's renewal plan. I'm grateful to both Peggy and Jean and consulting with them and knowing that we're all in agreement that it would be inappropriate at this time to ask residents to vote on such a large capital investment. I think we find ourselves in a climate of great economic uncertainty, and asking taxpayers at this point to consider such an investment would be a disservice to both the taxpayers and the projects themselves. So while we support the postponement of this referendum, I think it's important to be clear that the need to address our aging facilities still remains. This global pandemic has rightfully shifted our attention to more pressing issues such as health and safety, but the pandemic can't stop time. Every day our dated facilities get that much older. They creep towards the end of their useful life and greatly increase the cost of maintenance. So in the coming months, the Board of Ed will continue to work with the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to address our facility needs in a context of our new economic climate. I am hopeful and confident that by working together with the other two boards, we'll find a way forward that meets the needs of both the community and our school facilities. So again, I just want to thank everybody for your cooperation, and hopefully, once the dust settles, we will have some time where we can pull the full tri-board together and really be creative and figure out a path forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie. And any other public comment? No? I just will say also, I would like to thank both Katie and Jean for working so cooperatively on all these issues that we talked about tonight, and for my board for being so flexible to deal with some very important, significant issues, but pull together quickly and make some good decisions. I think that will help everybody in town get through this. So thank you very much for all of that tonight. Any other comments then? And I think otherwise we can motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Okay. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right.